In the labyrinthine world of espionage and counterterrorism, lines blur between hero and villain, truth and deception. But what happens when the very agency sworn to protect turns its formidable gaze inward? What happens when a decorated agent, a man who has given his life to justice, suddenly finds himself on the wrong side of the law? Welcome, Fifth Act subscribers, to a new saga that will grip you from its opening seconds. We plunge into the heart of a conspiracy where trust is a luxury and survival is the only mission. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and buckle up because this is Rogue Agent Redemption. The air hummed with the afterglow of success. Agent Alex Kaelen, mid-30s, chiseled jaw, eyes that held the weary wisdom of countless shadows, leaned back in his chair, a half-eaten pizza slice forgotten on the table. Across from him, his partner, Agent Lena Petrova, a sharp woman with a keen analytical mind and a no-nonsense demeanor, meticulously closed a laptop. The Cobalt Whisper case, a dangerous arms trafficking ring, was finally busted. Alex, voice relieved, a hint of exhaustion. 2 years, Lena. 2 years of chasing ghosts. Feels good to finally put them in a cell. He offered a tired but genuine smile. Lena glanced up, her lips curving slightly. Don't get sentimental on me, Kaelen. There's always another ghost. She picked up her coffee mug. Still, a win's a win. You heading home? Alex stretched, his back cracking audibly. Eventually, just decompressing, thinking of that diner with the awful coffee we frequented. A nostalgic glint entered his eyes. Suddenly, the steel door to the safe house burst open with a jarring crash. Alex and Lena instinctively tensed, their hands flying to their holstered weapons. A dozen tactical agents, FBI emblazoned on their vests, swarmed in, weapons raised, laser sights dancing across the room. Voice, loud, authoritative. FBI, drop your weapons, hands where I can see them. Alex's brow furrowed in confusion. This wasn't protocol, not after a successful operation. What the hell is this? He demanded, his hand hovering over his sidearm, but not drawing it. Lena, however, had her pistol out, aimed defensively. Leading the assault team was Director Robert Thorne, a man whose silver hair and stern gaze usually commanded respect, not fear. His face, normally composed, was a mask of grim determination. Thorne, cold, unwavering. Agent Kaelen, Agent Petrova, stand down. You are both under arrest. Lena's eyes widened, her pistol wavering. Under arrest? For what, Director? We just closed Cobalt Whisper. Her voice was laced with disbelief and a growing tremor of fear. Alex slowly raised his hands, his movements deliberate. His mind raced, cataloging the agents, assessing the situation. This felt wrong, deeply, fundamentally wrong. Thorne, what are you talking about? There's been a mistake. His voice was calm, but his jaw was clenched, a vein throbbing slightly in his temple. Thorne stepped forward, his eyes locked onto Alex's. There's no mistake, Agent. We have an indictment. Treason. Conspiracy to commit domestic terrorism. The words hit Alex like a physical blow. His face, moments ago weary, turned ashen. His eyes, usually sharp and calculating, now held a raw, incredulous hurt. Treason, he whispered, the word tasting like ash. You think I would... He trailed off, unable to even voice the accusation. An agent stepped past Thorne, placing a tablet on the table next to Alex. The screen displayed grainy satellite images, schematics of a bustling downtown plaza, and then a close-up of Alex's face, digitally superimposed onto a figure placing a device. Alex, voice horrified, disbelieving. No, that's impossible. That's a fabrication.
I was running surveillance on. Thorn, cutting him off, tone resolute. We have motive, Agent Kaelen. Unexplained offshore accounts, encrypted communications with known terror cells, and now this. He gestured to the image on the tablet. Alex stared at the image, a cold dread seeping into his bones. The location was familiar. It was the National Archives Plaza, a highly symbolic target. He remembered being near that location, but never involved in anything like this. He looked at Lena, whose face was a mixture of shock and dawning horror.
Director, this isn't Alex. He wouldn't. You know him. This is a setup. Thorn didn't even glance at Lena. His gaze remained fixed on Alex, unyielding. Agent Kaelen, lower your hands. Now. Alex's eyes darted around the room. The agents were closing in, their weapons steady. He saw the cold resolve in their faces, the unshakable belief that he was guilty. There was no reasoning here, no time for explanations. His mind, usually so clear in a crisis, was a whirlwind of betrayal and fear. This wasn't just a mistake. It was a meticulously planned trap. They wanted him silenced. He looked back at the tablet, the image of the plaza, the accusations screaming from the screen. He knew that location, knew its vulnerabilities. If he was being framed for this, it meant a real attack was coming. Thousands of lives were at stake, and he, the only one who could stop it, was about to be locked away. A sudden, desperate surge of adrenaline coursed through him. His eyes narrowed, a flicker of defiance replacing the confusion. He couldn't let them win. He couldn't let innocent people die. Alex, voice low but firm. I didn't do this, and I'm not going to let you pin it on me. In a blur of motion, Alex lunged, not for a weapon, but for the table, overturning it with a crash. The pizza box and forgotten papers flew, creating a momentary distraction. Simultaneously, he kicked out, catching the nearest agent's shin. The agent grunted, stumbling back. Lena, understanding dawning in her eyes, didn't hesitate. She fired her pistol into the ceiling, the deafening report momentarily disorienting the other agents. "Run, Alex! Go!" she screamed, dropping her weapon as two agents tackled her. Alex didn't need to be told twice. He sprinted for the back exit, the emergency light above it glowing menacingly. Thorn roared, "Stop him! Don't let him leave!" Gunfire erupted, bullets ricocheting off the reinforced walls. Alex ducked and weaved, the familiar choreography of evasion instinctual. He burst through the emergency door, slamming it shut behind him, plunging into the gritty anonymity of the alleyway. Sound of distant sirens growing louder, footsteps pounding. Framed, hunted, and with the weight of an unseen catastrophe on his shoulders, Alex Kaelen, a loyal agent, was now a fugitive. His world had shattered, replaced by a desperate, solitary fight for truth. What insidious forces were at play, and could one man, alone against an empire, ever truly find redemption? Alone, hunted, stripped of his identity and purpose, Agent Alex Kaelen's escape from the FBI safe house was just the beginning of his nightmare. Every face is a potential captor, every shadow a lurking threat. But a true agent, even when rogue, never gives up. Rain began to fall, cold and persistent, mirroring the chill in Alex Kaelen's heart. He moved like a ghost through the derelict warehouse district, his soaked clothes clinging to his lean frame. His shoulder ached where he'd scraped it against concrete during his desperate escape. His mind, however, was clearer than the polluted puddles reflecting the sparse streetlights. He needed answers. He needed help. And there was only one person he could trust implicitly in this tangled web of deceit.
Hours later, after ditching his tracking devices and navigating the city's forgotten routes, Alex stood outside a door in a run-down apartment building. He knocked, a distinct rhythm they'd established years ago. 2 short, 1 long, 2 short. The peephole slid open, revealing a roomy eye. Art Jenkins. OS, gravelly, suspicious. State your business. Alex, voice low, strained. Cobalt whisper. The old man still drinks instant coffee. The peephole clicked shut. A moment of silence, then the distinct sound of multiple locks disengaging. The door creaked open to reveal Art Jenkins, a man in his late 60s with a face like a roadmap of every secret operation he'd ever run. His eyes, though tired, still held a sharp intelligence. He wore an old bathrobe, and the smell of stale coffee and something medicinal hung in the air. Art, voice gruff, but with an underlying concern. "Kaelen, you look like hell. Heard the news. Thought it was a bad joke." He stepped aside, allowing Alex to enter. The apartment was cluttered with old books, analog radios, and a faint scent of old paper. Alex stumbled in, his body finally reacting to the stress and exhaustion. He collapsed onto a rickety chair. "It's no joke, Art. They framed me. Treason. Domestic terrorism. Thorn. He bought it. Hook, line, and sinker." His voice was raspy, filled with a deep-seated anger. Art poured 2 mugs of instant coffee, the cheap aroma filling the small room. He pushed one across the table to Alex, who greatly wrapped his hands around the warm ceramic.
Heard more than that. News is saying they found your prints on an unactivated explosive device in a rented storage unit, and a fat bank account in the Cayman Islands. Pretty neat package. He watched Alex closely, gauging his reaction. Alex's jaw tightened. He slammed the mug down, a splash of coffee sloshing over the side. "Prints? Accounts? It's all planted. I've been clean for 15 years, Art. You know me better than that." His hands trembled slightly with repressed fury. "The device? Where? What kind of device?" Art leaned back, his eyes narrowing. Thermal signature. Small, efficient. And the target? National Archives Plaza, set for 2 days from now. He paused, letting the words sink in. "If you ask me, it smells like a ghost from the old days, something only a few of us even knew about." Alex's blood ran cold. The National Archives Plaza. He'd seen that location on the fabricated evidence Thorn showed him. A ghost? What are you talking about? His voice was barely a whisper, a knot forming in his stomach. Art leaned back, his eyes narrowing. Years ago, there was talk of a program, Project Chimera, deniable assets, deep cover. If things went sideways, they could be disposable, left behind with a neat little bow on top, tying them to something nasty. It was meant to be black as pitch, never activated. But the tech they're using against you, it's too precise, too clean. Alex stared at him, the pieces clicking into place with horrifying clarity. Someone had resurrected Chimera, or a version of it, and he was the designated fall guy. Who, Art? Who had access to that kind of protocol? Who stands to gain from this? His voice was laced with desperation. Art sighed, rubbing his chin. Anyone who wanted to destabilize the agency. Someone who could twist a good man into a monster. Thorn isn't the mastermind, Kaelen. He's a puppet, a well-meaning idiot. But he's playing for someone else. He reached under his table, pulling out a battered old flip phone. This is a burner, untraceable, encrypted. For emergencies only. You'll need it. And listen, there's a flicker, a name. Maxwell Hayes. He was involved in Chimera, supposedly retired years ago.
Alex took the phone, his fingers closing around the cold metal. Hayes. The name triggered a vague memory, something from deep in the archives, a dark, unsettling file. Hayes, where would I find him? Art, a grim smile playing on his lips. That's the fun part. He's a shadow, but if anyone knows how to find a shadow, it's you, Kaelen. Be careful. They're watching, and they're good.
Suddenly, a loud thud echoed from the hallway outside. The distinct, metallic click of a door being forced open. Art's eyes snapped to the door, his hand going to a hidden drawer. Too late. They found me. Go, now, get out the back. Alex glanced at the door, then at Art, a flash of fear for his old friend. Art, no. Go. You're no good to anyone if you're caught. Find Hayes. Clear your name. He pushed a small, old-fashioned locket across the table to Alex. My granddad's, for luck. Alex hesitated for only a fraction of a second. The thud of heavy boots grew louder in the hall. He grasped the locket, his heart pounding, and bolted for a back window. He threw it open, the cold rain splashing his face, and without another thought, he plunged into the night. Below him, he could hear the distinct sound of agents storming Art's apartment. He knew he was leaving Art to face the music, and the guilt tore at him. But he had no choice. He was a fugitive, and his only hope was to disappear. Sound of heavy boots, shouts, breaking glass. Then a fading, distant siren, and the relentless patter of rain. Alex Kaelen had taken his first step into the abyss, a ghost in the urban landscape, armed with nothing but a burner phone, a cryptic name, and a locket. But the hunters were closing in, relentless and unseen. Could he trust the whispers of a forgotten program? And what price would he pay for the truth? Alex Kaelen, scaling a fence in the rain, disappearing into the dark, his silhouette shrinking against the city lights. A flashing FBI logo fades into a distorted, menacing symbol. With his only trusted contact compromised and a ticking clock counting down to an unthinkable act of terror, Alex Kaelen is truly alone. But isolation is a luxury he cannot afford. To unravel the truth, he must reach out, even if it means putting another life, a familiar one, in unimaginable danger. Alex Kaelen, huddled in a derelict building, holding a burner phone, his face etched with strain. Flashback glimpses of Lena Petrova, sharp and competent. Hours blurred into a cold, wet haze. Alex Kaelen, now shrouded in scavenged, oversized clothes, shivered within the crumbling shell of an abandoned observatory on the city's outskirts. His hands, still numb from the rain, fumbled with Art Jenkins' burner phone. One contact remained, Lena Petrova. He knew she was likely under heavy surveillance, possibly even held for questioning, but she was the only one who might listen, who might believe. He dialed the encrypted number, his heart thudding a frantic rhythm against his ribs. Each ring felt like an eternity, a direct line to a potential trap. Lena, OS, voice clipped, wary. Petrova. Alex, voice low, distorted by the poor connection and his attempt to mask his voice. The cobalt still shines, Lena, but the whisper is gone. A beat of stunned silence on the other end, then a sharp intake of breath. Lena, voice hushed, urgent. Alex, my God, where are you? They're saying things, horrible things. Her voice was laced with a mixture of fear and profound confusion. I'm on administrative leave. Every call, every move is being monitored. They tried to break me, Alex. Asked about offshore accounts, a storage unit.
I told them it was a lie, all of it. Alex, voice grim. I know. They planted it. It's part of a larger operation, Lena. A program called Chimera. It's designed to make assets disposable, link them to false flag attacks. He could hear the tremor in his own voice, the desperate need for her to believe him. They want to blame this attack, the one coming in 2 days, on me. Lena, voice incredulous, then a dawning comprehension. 2 days? What attack? And Chimera? That's a black file, something from before our time. Who would even know about that? Her voice dropped to a whisper, a newfound resolve hardening it. Meet me, the old park, the statue of the founding father. Midnight, come alone. Alex, voice desperate. Lena, they'll be watching you. Lena, voice firm. I know, I'll shake them. Just be there. And Alex, don't let me regret this. The line went dead. Alex stared at the phone, a sliver of hope piercing the darkness. Lena believed him, or at least she was willing to take a chance. Midnight. The park was desolate, save for the incessant drip of rain from the trees. Alex, hidden amongst the dense foliage, scanned the surroundings. His breath hitched as he saw her. Lena Petrova, her trench coat pulled tight, her face grim. She moved with a calculated nonchalance, occasionally checking her watch, her eyes sweeping the empty park. He stepped out, his shadow long and distorted under the single flickering lamppost. Alex, voice low, cautious. Lena. She whirled, her eyes wide with a mix of relief and anger. Her jaw was tight, her shoulders hunched against the cold. You idiot, Alex! Do you have any idea what you've put me through? What they're saying about us? Her voice was a furious whisper, her eyes glistening with unshed tears of frustration. I'm sorry, Lena, but you know me. You know I wouldn't. Someone wants me gone, and they want this city to burn. He pulled out the locket Art had given him, a small, worn piece of silver. Art told me, Project Chimera, and a name, Maxwell Hayes. Heard of him?
Lena's gaze fell on the locket, then back to his eyes. The anger softened, replaced by a deep, weary understanding. She knew him, truly knew him. She took the locket, her thumb brushing over the worn metal. Hayes, a ghost in the system, Black Ops legend, disappeared years ago. The fact you know that name, it changes things. She looked around nervously. Let's move. We can't talk here. I have something to show you. They moved to a secluded, all-night diner, blending into the sparse clientele. Over lukewarm coffee, Lena pulled out a secure tablet, its screen a dull glow under the table. Lena, voice, her voice firm, analytic. The official report on the Archives Plaza incident, what they want us to believe, says an old C4 variant, a custom detonator. Her finger traced a line on the screen. But look at the residue analysis. The trace elements aren't consistent with C4. They're too clean, too precise. It points to a new gen explosive, something experimental. And the detonator? The schematics they published are publicly available. But the actual signature they found in the preliminary sweeps? It doesn't match. Her eyes were wide with realization. So, they're fabricating the evidence to fit a convenient narrative, making it look like an amateur job when it's anything but. He slammed his fist softly on the table, a flicker of controlled rage in his eyes. Lena, nodding. Exactly. And whoever's behind this, they know the FBI's protocols, their forensic weaknesses. They know how to mislead. It has to be an insider. Her finger scrolled down.
I cross-referenced who had access to the preliminary forensics, who could have altered the public report, who was pushing for a quick closure on your case. Her finger stopped on a profile picture. Deputy Director Cyrus Vance. Early 40s, impeccably dressed, a rising star in the agency, known for his ambition and ruthlessness. His smile in the photo seemed too wide, too confident. Alex, voice, a low growl. Vance. I knew I didn't trust him. He always seemed too eager, too perfect. His face hardened with a cold determination. Lena, tense. He's been acting strangely since the Cobalt Whisper bust, pushing for the full indictment, no questions asked. And he's been making unscheduled visits to a specific data center, one we don't normally use for sensitive case files. Suddenly, Lena's burner phone, which had been resting on the table, buzzed twice, a specific, prearranged alert tone. Her eyes darted to the screen, then snapped to the window. Outside, a black sedan, previously parked innocently down the street, had just started its engine. Its headlights were off, but its shape was unmistakable. Lena, voice, urgent whisper, her face paling. They're here, Vance's people. They tracked me. They knew I'd try to reach you. Her eyes widened with fear, a stark contrast to her earlier resolve. Alex grabbed her arm, his mind already racing for an escape route. Damn it, how did they know? His gaze swept the diner, searching for an exit, a distraction. They had barely scratched the surface, and already the net was tightening. The shadows they sought to unmask had already found them. Sound of a car engine idling, then accelerating softly. The distinct click of a car door opening in the distance. The familiar face had become a beacon, but also a trap. Alex and Lena had found their first lead, a name within the hollowed halls of the FBI, but their discovery was mirrored by their enemy's relentless pursuit. The game of cat and mouse had just escalated. Alex and Lena, their faces tight with fear, looking out the diner window at the black sedan. The image of Vance's smiling face flashes, then distort into a sinister sneer. Quick cut to a close-up of the locket in Alex's hand.
Sound of frantic footsteps, muffled shouts, then the sudden screech of tires. The shadows are alive, and they are closing in. Alex Kaelen and Lena Petrova, hunted by the very agency they once served, have glimpsed the face of their enemy, Deputy Director Cyrus Vance. But Vance is merely a cog in a much larger, more terrifying machine. To truly expose the conspiracy, they must dive deeper into the darkness, knowing that every revelation could be their last. Quick cuts of Alex and Lena evading pursuit through kitchens, over fences, their faces grim and determined. Flashing images of corporate logos, shadowy figures. The moment Lena's burner phone buzzed, Alex was already in motion. "Back exit, kitchen," he barked, grabbing her arm. The diner's single waitress, startled, dropped a tray of empty plates with a clatter. "They're coming in through the front," Lena hissed, her eyes darting to the entrance, where two men in dark suits, their faces grim, were already pushing past the swinging doors. These weren't FBI uniforms. Their movements were too fluid, too predatory. Private contractors. Alex shoved Lena towards the kitchen. The greasy floor was slick, the air thick with the smell of stale fries. He kicked open the emergency exit, the harsh glare of the alleyway illuminating them. Just as they burst out, a black sedan screeched to a halt at the alley's mouth, blocking their escape. Two more figures emerged, moving with trained efficiency. "Damn it," Alex swore, pulling Lena behind a dumpster. He glanced at the fire escape above, up. Lena didn't hesitate. Years of training kicked in.
They scrambled up the rusty ladder, the metal groaning under their weight, just as a hail of bullets impacted the wall behind them. They reached the rooftop, winded but alive, and launched themselves across the gap to the next building. The shouts from below faded as they moved, two shadows in the sprawling cityscape. Hours later, they found refuge in the quiet hum of a public library, blending among students and researchers. Alex, disguised in a baseball cap and oversized glasses, kept watch, while Lena, hunched over a public computer, worked with a furious intensity. She had managed to access a back channel, a dark web intel broker she'd cultivated years ago for highly sensitive off-book queries. Lena, voice hushed, typing rapidly. "Okay, Vance, let's see what dirty laundry you're hiding." Her fingers danced across the keyboard, a flicker of grim satisfaction on her face. No direct financial link to anything shady, too clean. But his travel logs, odd. A lot of trips to a shell company in Delaware, Aeon Holdings. Alex, voice low, eyes scanning the library. Aeon Holdings. Sounds deliberately vague. Lena, voice nodding, eyes glued to the screen. Exactly. And that shell company has only one real asset listed, a subsidiary named Prometheus Solutions, a private military contractor. Ghost company, no public operations, no government contracts that I can find. Her brow furrowed. But the address, it leads to a massive, heavily guarded compound in upstate New York, registered as an advanced research and development facility. Alex's breath hitched. Prometheus Solutions, a PMC, and Vance is connected. This isn't just about framing me anymore, is it? This is bigger, much bigger. His voice was tinged with a growing dread, his jaw clenching. They're not just planting evidence, Alex. They're manufacturing an enemy, using the treason narrative to push through something else, a domestic threat, something that requires private solutions. Her eyes, normally so composed, were wide with a chilling realization. If they can blame you for a terror attack, they can justify anything. Martial law, unlimited surveillance, who knows what else? The true scale of the conspiracy began to dawn on them, cold and terrifying. It wasn't just about Alex's reputation. It was about leveraging a fabricated terror event to achieve a nefarious political or corporate agenda. Alex, voice, a low growl. They're not just trying to stop us. They're trying to use this to reshape the country. We need more than just a link. We need proof of Prometheus's involvement in the attack, proof they're tied to Vance directly, not just a shell company. Lena nodded, her face grim. We need to get into that facility, or find someone who worked there, someone on the inside. She paused, scrolling further. Wait, one of the listed directors for Prometheus Solutions, a man named Silas Thorne. Alex's head snapped up, his eyes wide. His face contorted in disbelief, then a cold, dawning horror. Thorne? Robert Thorne? My director? No, it can't be. He arrested me. He was convinced.
Lena shook her head, her face pale. Not Robert. Silas. He's Robert Thorne's older brother. Disgraced former military intelligence, vanished off the grid years ago, known for extreme ideologies and ruthless efficiency. Rumors of him dabbling in black market arms and mercenaries. Her voice was barely a whisper, laden with shock. He's the true architect, Alex. Robert Thorne is just his unwitting pawn. They knew Robert would believe the evidence against you. The discovery hung in the air between them, a suffocating revelation.
the man who ordered Alex's arrest, the man who spearheaded the investigation against him, was unknowingly working for his own brother, the true mastermind. The betrayal was deeper, more insidious than Alex could have imagined. Suddenly, the library's intercom crackled to life, a pre-recorded voice announcing, "Attention patrons, the library will be closing in 5 minutes due to an unscheduled maintenance issue. Please exit orderly." Alex and Lena exchanged a look. "Maintenance issue?" Alex murmured, his instincts screaming. This was too sudden, too convenient. As they rose from their seats, a group of quiet, well-built men, dressed in plain clothes but with a distinct military bearing, began to move through the aisles, systematically ushering people towards the exits. Their eyes, however, seemed to linger on Alex and Lena, their movements subtle but purposeful. They were Prometheus operatives. Lena, voice low, urgent. "They found us. Again. This is more than just tracking our phones. They have eyes everywhere." Her face was etched with a chilling blend of fear and frustration. Alex grabbed her arm, his grip firm. "Stay calm. We blend. We make a break for it when the crowd gets thick at the exit." His eyes narrowed, a grim resolve hardening his features. Silas Thorne. The name echoed in his mind, fueling a cold fury. This wasn't just about clearing his name anymore. This was about stopping a family of monsters. Sound of library patrons murmuring, the distinct sound of heavy, measured footsteps approaching. The music builds in tension. The conspiracy had revealed its true, chilling face. A ruthless private military corporation helmed by a phantom from the shadows, leveraging a trusted figure within the FBI itself. Alex and Lena were now caught in a deadly game, their every move tracked, their every discovery bringing them closer to a confrontation with a power far greater than they could have imagined. Alex and Lena, trapped in the closing library, surrounded by the stern faces of the operatives. A distorted image of Silas Thorne's face appears, then fades into the Prometheus Solutions logo, a close-up of the locket, glinting ominously.
The walls are closing in. Deputy Director Vance and the shadowy Prometheus Solutions have confirmed their omnipresence. But in a world where information is the ultimate weapon, Alex Kaelen and Lena Petrova know their only chance lies in stealing the enemy's secrets. They must infiltrate, they must hack, and they must confront the chilling moral compromises required to save lives. Alex and Lena, their faces grimly focused, planning with a hastily drawn map. Quick cuts to complex code on a screen, a server rack, a close-up of Lena's intensely focused eyes. The library's forced closure created the chaos Alex and Lena needed. As the maintenance crew, the Prometheus operatives, began to subtly guide patrons towards the exits, Alex grabbed Lena's arm. "Follow my lead. Head for the fire exit near the reading room." They melted into the exiting crowd, keeping their heads down, their movements natural. Just as the operatives began to zero in on their last known position, Alex pulled Lena into a narrow gap between bookshelves, then pushed open a rarely used fire exit. They spilled out into a loading bay, a delivery truck rumbling nearby. They hitched a ride on its undercarriage for a few blocks, then slipped off into the labyrinthine alleys, disappearing once more. Hours later, tucked away in another derelict building, Lena set up a makeshift command center. Her stolen tablet glowed, displaying a complex network diagram. Prometheus Solutions isn't just a remote compound, Alex. They have a primary data processing hub right here, disguised as Innovate Global Technologies. It's a ghost company, but their servers are very real.
Alex paced, his brow furrowed. A frontal assault is out. Too many layers of security, likely biometrics, hardened walls. His voice was tight, the urgency of their situation pressing down on him. Lena, voice grimly determined. No, but every system has a back door. They use a third-party IT support vendor for routine maintenance, TechLink Solutions. If we can get a TechLink ID, a uniform, we can walk right in. Her eyes met Alex's, a silent question in them. This was deep cover, bordering on impersonation, far beyond their usual playbook. Alex ran a hand through his hair, a conflict raging in his eyes. We're breaking federal laws, Lena. Every step we take puts us further into a hole. If we get caught, they'll have all the evidence they need. His voice was low, filled with the internal struggle. Lena, voice grimly determined. Are you willing to let them detonate that bomb, Alex? To let thousands die because we're worried about our service records? Her words cut through his hesitation. This isn't about us anymore. It's about stopping them, whatever it takes. Alex's jaw clenched. He looked at the locket in his hand, then back at Lena. Her fierce conviction mirrored his own buried sense of duty. You're right. What do we need? His voice was resolute, the internal conflict momentarily silenced by the greater threat. The plan was audacious. Posing as TechLink repair crew, they'd gained access to innovate global technologies. Alex, dressed in a borrowed work jumpsuit, acted as a lookout, his heart thudding against his ribs with every passing guard. Lena, a tool belt clanking softly at her side, was hunched over a server rack in a chillingly cold, brightly lit server room. Beads of sweat dotted her brow, illuminated by the glow of her specialized, illicitly acquired hacking device. Lena, a tense whisper into her comm. Firewall's a beast, Alex. Military grade. They're running a proprietary OS. Her fingers flew across the keyboard, lines of code scrolling furiously on the device's screen. Her expression was a mix of intense concentration and growing frustration. Damn it, they just cycled the encryption keys. Alex, urgent whisper. Got a patrol coming your way, Lena. 2 minutes. You need to be in or out. He pressed himself against a cold metal wall, his hand resting on the hilt of a concealed blade. His eyes darted to the CCTV camera in the corner, knowing their time was rapidly running out. Lena gritted her teeth, muttering a string of technical commands. Her eyes narrowed, then a triumphant grin split her face. Got it. Loophole in their legacy system. I'm in. Her fingers moved even faster, downloading gigabytes of data. It's massive, Alex. Operational plans, financial transfers, a communication log. And wait, a detailed schematic for the Archives Plaza device. Her voice was hushed, filled with the weight of their discovery. Alex, relieved but still tense. Good. Get what you can. We need proof connecting Vance and Silas Thorne to all this. Lena worked furiously. Suddenly, her eyes widened, her body going rigid. She gasped, a small, choked sound. Lena, a horrified whisper. Oh my God, Alex. The Archives Plaza bomb. It's a diversion. It's not the main target. The real target, it's the city's entire power grid. A full system shutdown. They're planning to plunge the entire eastern seaboard into darkness. Her voice was thick with terror, her face pale. Alex, working furiously. Suddenly, her eyes widened, her body going rigid. She gasped, a small, choked sound. Lena, a horrified whisper. Oh my God, Alex. The Archives Plaza bomb. It's a diversion. It's not the main target. The real target. It's the city's entire power grid. A full system shutdown. They're planning to plunge the entire eastern seaboard into darkness. Her voice was thick with terror, her face pale. Alex's blood ran cold. His breath hitched in his throat. The moral dilemmas, the risks, faded into insignificance. The scale of the catastrophe they faced was unimaginable. The patrol was getting closer, their heavy footsteps echoing down the sterile corridor. Lena had retrieved the data, but the ticking clock had just become a deafening roar. They had unleashed a truth more terrifying than any lie. Sound of Lena's device beeping rapidly, the distinct approaching footsteps growing louder, an ominous hum from the servers. They had breached the enemy's fortress and seized their secrets, but the intelligence they uncovered was a chilling confirmation of a plot far more sinister than they could have conceived. A diversion, a blackout, a city on the brink of total collapse. With less than 12 hours until chaos, Alex Kaelen and Lena Petrova were caught in a race against oblivion, armed only with a truth that could doom them all.
Lena's horrified face illuminated by the data on her device, a blinking timer, a city map with power lines highlighted. Alex's determined yet desperate expression. The Prometheus Solutions logo flashes menacingly. Sound of a digital countdown timer rapidly accelerating, ominous, deep thrumming. The truth, once a desperate quest, has now become a terrifying burden. Alex Kaelen and Lena Petrova hold the knowledge of a plot designed to plunge an entire region into darkness, a catastrophic blackout initiated by the very forces sworn to protect. With less than 12 hours until chaos reigns, their options are dwindling, and the city remains oblivious. A screen displaying a rapidly counting down timer, quick cuts to city lights, then to darkened streets. Alex and Lena's faces illuminated by a dim screen, showing fear, determination, and exhaustion. The alarm blared, a piercing shriek that cut through the humming servers. "Go, now!" Alex roared, shoving Lena towards the service exit. The footsteps of the patrol were almost upon them. They burst through a fire door, plunging down a grimy stairwell just as agents flooded the server room above. They emerged into a delivery alley, narrowly avoiding a garbage truck. They sprinted, their breaths ragged, the distant wail of sirens growing louder. Alex pulled Lena into the shadows of a defunct storefront. Alex, voice panting, desperate. "The data, Lena, you got it all?" Lena, voice gasping, fumbling with her device. "Most of it. The Archive's plaza bomb is a decoy, a distraction for the real attack. They're targeting the central power grid control, a cyber attack designed to trigger a cascading blackout across the entire eastern seaboard." Her eyes were wide with horror, illuminated by the glow of her device. "It's called Project Blackout, and the timer? It's set for T-minus 11 hours, 47 minutes. Alex's face hardened, a grim resolve replacing his exhaustion. "We have to warn someone, the FBI, Homeland Security, anyone who listen." He pulled out Art's burner phone. "I have a secure line, a back channel for emergencies." Hours later, tucked away in a run-down motel room, the air thick with stale cigarette smoke, Alex paced while Lena frantically worked. He had made the call. A trusted, high-ranking contact, an old friend from his academy days, answered. Alex, voice into the phone, his voice urgent, desperate. "Agent Hayes, it's Kaelen. Listen to me. They framed me. But that's not the point. There's an imminent attack. Project Blackout. Power grid. Tonight." He rattled off the details, the specific vulnerabilities, the timeline he'd seen on Lena's device. A long silence on the other end. Then, Agent Hayes' voice, cold and devoid of warmth. "Alex, I'm sorry. We have irrefutable evidence against you. Your prints, your communications. We've cross-referenced. You're a defector, a terrorist. Anything you say is a desperate attempt to create a diversion."
His voice hardened. "We've traced this call. Stay put. We're sending a team to your location. Give yourself up, Alex. Don't make this worse." The line went dead. Alex slowly lowered the phone, his face pale with shock and fury. He stared at Lena, his eyes burning with betrayed hope. "They won't listen. They're convinced I'm a terrorist. They traced the call. We have minutes." His voice was a strained whisper, the reality of their isolation crashing down on him. Lena, her own face grim, typing furiously. "I expected it. They've locked down every channel. But the data I downloaded, the schematics for Project Blackout, they show the control nexus, the nerve center for the cyber attack. It's not remote, Alex. It's a physical location, a highly secured facility disguised as a decommissioned power plant on the outskirts of the city." She pointed to a detailed map on her tablet. "The Blackwood Data Relay Station." Alex leaned over the tablet, his eyes scanning the blueprints, the sheer audacity of the plan. A power plant, once a source of energy, now a weapon of darkness. Silas Thorne's operations. It fits, a physical hub for a digital attack. He looked at the rapidly dwindling timer on Lena's screen. Less than 11 hours now. 11 hours now. "We have to go there. We have to stop them. We're the only ones who know, the only ones who can." He grabbed his makeshift pack, his eyes burning with a fierce, unwavering resolve. Lena, her voice filled with a desperate hope. "It's heavily fortified, Alex. They know we're coming. They'll be expecting us." Just as she spoke, the distinct sound of multiple vehicles pulling up outside the motel reached their ears. Car doors slamming, heavy footsteps echoing in the hallway. A faint voice, distorted but recognizable, calling out, "FBI, come out with your hands up." Alex and Lena exchanged a terrified glance. They had pinpointed the attack's origin, found the heart of the conspiracy, but in doing so, they had revealed themselves. They were cornered, trapped between the relentless pursuit of their former colleagues and the ticking clock of an apocalyptic blackout. The battle for the city was about to begin, and they were, against all odds, its last hope. Sound of heavy boots in the hallway, loud knocking on the motel room door, shouts from outside. The digital timer on Lena's device continues its relentless countdown. Dismissed as traitors, hunted by their own, Alex and Lena stand on the precipice of an impossible mission. The truth they carry is their only weapon, and the Blackwood Data Relay Station is their final battlefield. Can two rogue agents against an entire network of betrayal stop a catastrophe of unimaginable scale? Alex and Lena, trapped in the motel room, looking at the door with desperate defiance. The map on Lena's tablet flashes, showing the Blackwood Data Relay Station. The timer on the screen hits a chilling T-minus 10 hours, 59 minutes. Trapped, cornered, with minutes ticking down to a city plunged into darkness, Alex Kaelen and Lena Petrova have one final, desperate chance to expose the architects of chaos. The trail of betrayal leads them to the Blackwood Data Relay Station, the nexus of the impending blackout, and to the chilling presence of a ghost from the past. Quick, chaotic cuts of Alex and Lena escaping the motel, flashing images of the Blackwood Data Relay Station, a close-up of Silas Thorne's cold, calculating eyes. "FBI, come out with your hands up!" The shouts from outside were deafening. The door rattled under the force of a battering ram. Alex's eyes darted around the dingy motel room. No escape, not through the window, not through the door. "Lena, the sink, fast!" Lena, quick to understand, grabbed the heaviest object she could find, a rusted iron lamp, and slammed it into the porcelain sink. Water gushed out, quickly flooding the floor. Alex simultaneously grabbed the coffee maker, ripped out its cord, and, with a terrifying resolve, stripped the wires bare. "What are you doing?" Lena hissed, her eyes wide with apprehension. Alex, voice grim, focused. "A distraction. Give us 5 seconds." He braced himself. On 3. 1, 2... Just as the door splintered open, Alex plunged the live wires into the rapidly spreading puddle on the floor. A blinding flash, a deafening crackle, and the entire room was plunged into darkness. Shouts of pain and surprise erupted from the hallway as the agents hit the electrified water. "Go!" Alex yelled, pulling Lena towards the now darkened window. He kicked out the remaining glass, shielding Lena as they scrambled through the opening. They dropped onto the rain-slicked fire escape, descending rapidly as the chaos in the motel erupted behind them. Their journey to the Blackwood data relay station was a blur of high-octane evasion. They stole a beat-up car, ditching it blocks later for a winding route through the industrial district. Every shadow seemed to hold a lurking operative. The city's distant hum, usually a comfort, now felt like the prelude to its silent death. Less than 10 hours remained on Lena's tablet. The Blackwood data relay station was an ominous silhouette against the moonless sky. High fences topped with razor wire, armed guards patrolling the perimeter, and a chilling sense of absolute control emanated from the repurposed power plant. Lena, voice breathless. "This is a fortress, Alex. How do we get in?" Alex, voice, his eyes narrowed, scanning the perimeter. "Every fortress has a weakness. An old service tunnel, a blind spot in their security grid. We hit them fast, hard. They don't expect 2 people to breach this." He gestured to a barely visible access hatch near the base of a forgotten smokestack. "That access tunnel, it's too well hidden for perimeter sweeps. They'll underestimate it." Using a combination of old Black Ops techniques and Lena's quick thinking to bypass an infrared tripwire, they breached the inner perimeter. The air inside the tunnel was cold, metallic, echoing with the distant hum of machinery. They moved through the labyrinthine corridors, bypassing biometric scanners and motion sensors thanks to Lena's swift hacking. The complex hummed with power, a testament to its true purpose. Finally, they reached the central control room. It was a cavernous space, filled with blinking servers, holographic displays of the city's power grid, and the chilling, rhythmic beep, beep, beep of the countdown timer. Now flashing T-minus 092700. And there, standing before the main console, his back to them, was Silas Thorne. He was older than his brother, with a leaner, almost gaunt frame, but his presence exuded a coiled, dangerous energy. He wore a tailored dark suit, his silver hair neatly combed back. Deputy Director Vance stood nearby, his face pale and sweating, staring wide-eyed at the complex controls.
Silas. Silas Thorne slowly turned, a faint, chilling smile playing on his lips, his eyes, cold and intelligent, fixed on Alex. Agent Kaelen, or should I say, Mr. Fugitive. Impressive. You actually made it. And you brought the clever little sidekick. He glanced at Lena, a flicker of disdain in his eyes. Vance gasped, his eyes wide. "Kaelen,
I thought Director Thorne said he was apprehended." His voice was a panicked whisper. Silas chuckled, a dry, humorless sound. "Robert still believes everything he's told. A family trait, I suppose." His gaze hardened as he looked at Alex. "You should have stayed gone, Alex. Disappeared. Your country betrayed you. You should have embraced the freedom." "You framed me! You're going to plunge this city into darkness, all for some twisted agenda. What is it, Silas? Power? Revenge?" Silas took a step closer, his expression calm, almost serene. "Neither, Alex. Control. This nation, it's soft, complacent. It needs to be reset, rebuilt from the ashes. A blackout, it's merely a catalyst. It creates the perfect conditions for a new order to emerge. An order where weakness is purged and strength prevails." His voice was eerily calm, his eyes gleaming with a chilling conviction. "Your brother, Robert, is a necessary casualty of that weakness, a patriot blinded by protocol." Alex, his voice shaking with contained rage. "You're sick. You'll kill thousands, destabilize millions." Silas, a dismissive wave of his hand. "Collateral damage. A small price for a stronger future. And your framing, Alex, it was exquisitely simple. You had the access, the profile of a man pushed too far. A convenient scapegoat. The perfect villain for my brother to hunt, completely unaware he was doing my bidding." A cruel smile touched his lips. "You were merely a narrative device." Alex lunged, a guttural roar escaping his throat. But Silas was faster. Two hulking Prometheus operatives, previously unseen, materialized from the shadows, blocking Alex's path. Lena, however, saw her chance. While Alex engaged the operatives, creating a diversion, she darted to a nearby workstation, her fingers flying over the keyboard, trying to cut off Silas's access to the main grid. "They're bypassing the core network!" Lena shouted, her eyes fixed on the screen, her brow furrowed in intense concentration. "I can try to isolate the main relay, but I need more time." Silas's eyes flickered to Lena, a flicker of annoyance crossing his face. "Cute. Disable her. Softly." He didn't even acknowledge Alex, now locked in a brutal struggle with the operatives. "Vance, make sure the final sequence is initiated. No delays." Vance, trembling, fumbled with the controls on the main console, his eyes wide with fear as he stared at the countdown. He was a terrified puppet, fully realizing the monster he had allied himself with. Alex, enraged, threw one operative into a server rack, sparks flying, and lunged for Vance, but Silas's second operative was on him instantly. Silas, with an almost bored expression, reached for a secure terminal. "It's over, Alex. Your last stand is futile." He began typing, preparing to execute a manual override, perhaps a failsafe, or to accelerate the blackout. Alex saw the glowing key, the final command ready to be sent. He needed to get to that console. Sound of intense struggle, grunts, the persistent beep of the timer growing louder, Silas's calm voice, Lena's desperate typing. The architect of chaos had revealed his horrifying vision, his chilling indifference to human life. Alex Kaelen, locked in a brutal fight, watched as the true devastation near. With his time running out and the power grid on the brink of collapse, could he stop Silas Thorne, or would this confrontation be his final, desperate act of defiance?
Struggling against operatives, his eyes fixed on Silas Thorne, who stands calmly at the console, poised to initiate the blackout. A close-up of the countdown timer flashing red. Vance's terrified, sweating face. Sound of a power grid failing, distant hum dying, crackling electricity, then a profound silence, followed by terrified screams in the distance. The mastermind revealed, the clock ticking down to 0. In the heart of the Blackwood data relay station, Alex Kaelen lunged, but Silas Thorne, the architect of chaos, proved too swift. The countdown reached its inevitable end, and the lights began to die. The city, oblivious moments ago, was now plunged into the horrifying grip of Project Blackout. A city skyline going dark, building by building. Alex and Lena's faces lit by emergency lights showing frantic urgency. Flashing diagrams of power grids collapsing. Alex, fueled by a surge of pure adrenaline and rage, broke free from the operatives with a brutal efficiency. He slammed one against the main console, sending sparks flying. But it was too late. Silas Thorne, voice calm, triumphant. Too slow, Agent Kaelen. With a final, deliberate press of a glowing red key, Silas initiated the sequence. On the main holographic display, the city's power grid, once a vibrant tapestry of light, began to flicker. Beep, beep, beep. The countdown timer hit 0. And then silence. A profound, terrifying silence as the main power within the control room died, plunging them into sudden, oppressive darkness. Only the emergency lights, casting an eerie red glow, remained. Outside the reinforced windows, the distant city lights began to blink out, block by agonizing block. Panic-stricken screams echoed faintly from the now darkened metropolis. Vance, voice a whimper of pure terror. It's happening. Oh God, it's happening. Deputy Director Vance, pale as a ghost, stumbled back, trying to reach a concealed exit. Alex, voice roaring, fighting through the operatives. "Lena, what happened?" Lena, voice strained, typing furiously on her hacking device, illuminated by its faint glow. "I couldn't stop the primary sequence. He initiated the cascade. Millions are going dark. But wait, there's a failsafe in the system, a secondary synchronization hub. If it goes offline, it'll stabilize the grid, prevent a total permanent collapse." Her eyes widened. "But it's physical. The Northbridge substation. We have to shut it down manually." Alex saw Vance attempting to flee. With a surge of fury, Alex slammed his elbow into one operative's jaw, dropping him. He then lunged at Vance, grabbing him by the collar. "You help me, or you face justice for this," Alex snarled, his face inches from Vance's terrified one. He dragged Vance to a secure comms panel. "Get to the FBI. Tell them what happened. Tell them about Silas Thorne did this. Tell them about Northbridge." Vance, shaking with fear and realizing his desperate situation, nodded frantically. Alex slammed his fist against a pressure point on Vance's neck, knocking him unconscious, then tied his hands with a discarded cable, leaving him for any arriving FBI. There was no time for him. The city was dying. Alex, voice to Lena, urgent. "Northbridge, how far?" Lena, already moving, pointing to a schematic on her device. Across the city, 10 miles, and with the power out, traffic will be chaos. Silas Thorne had vanished. He was nowhere to be seen in the emergency lighting. He had initiated the blackout and made his escape. "He's gone," Alex muttered, a fresh wave of frustration washing over him. They burst out of the Blackwood data relay station, leaving the remaining dazed Prometheus operatives to the mercy of the arriving FBI, whose sirens were now wailing closer. The city, once a glittering expanse, was a mosaic of rapidly disappearing lights. Panic was beginning to spread, muffled cries growing into a distant, terrifying roar. The drive was a nightmare. Alex, behind the wheel of a stolen, battered utility van, swerved through panicked traffic, dodging abandoned cars and bewildered pedestrians. Street lights were out, traffic signals were dead. The raw, primal fear of the blackout was palpable. Lena, her voice tight with tension, navigating from the tablet. "Left here, now! They've got a blockade ahead!" They crashed through a flimsy construction barrier, accelerating down a deserted side street, ignoring the blaring horn of a bewildered driver. The van bounced violently over potholes. They reached the North Bridge substation, an archaic, humming beast of a building, surrounded by crackling power lines. The air thrummed with a dying energy. Inside, a skeleton crew of Prometheus operatives, likely Silas's rearguard, were making final preparations to sabotage the physical infrastructure. "Freeze!" one operative shouted, raising his weapon.
Alex didn't hesitate. He was a whirlwind of controlled violence, disarming one operative with a swift kick, using his own momentum to dislodge another. Lena, surprisingly agile, used the environment, shoving a heavy cart into another operative, creating a diversion. They reached the main control panel, a relic of an older era, still pulsing with a faint, dying energy. Wires crisscrossed, dials flickered. Lena, panting, eyes wide with terror and concentration. "Okay, Alex, the schematics show it. The main sync relay is housed in a shielded conduit. We need to cut the power to it directly. There's a manual override, the red lever, but you have to do it just as I reroute the failsafe through the auxiliary grid. Otherwise, it'll overload." She pointed to a thick, rusted lever. "It's going to be a massive surge. It could blow." Alex nodded, his face grim. "On your mark." His eyes locked onto hers. A silent pact formed in the face of oblivion. The air crackled with the dying grid. "Lena, urgent. Now, pull it!" Alex gripped the heavy, grimy lever. With a grunt, he pulled. A deafening roar erupted. Sparks showered down around them, blinding white. The entire substation shuddered violently, metal screeching against metal. Lena screamed as a nearby transformer exploded, sending a wave of searing heat and light through the room. Alex shielded her instinctively, the air filled with the smell of ozone and burnt metal. Then, an eerie silence. The hum of the grid died completely, but the city remained mostly dark. Lena, shaky, coughing. "Did it work? Did we stop it?" Alex looked around. The substation was in ruins, but the complete destruction they feared hadn't happened. He looked out a grimy window. A few blocks away, emergency lights were flickering to life. Not a full restoration, but a flicker of hope. They had averted total collapse. But then, Lena's tablet, which had been knocked to the floor, blinked. A new message. A chilling, familiar symbol. The Prometheus Solutions logo, and below it, a single line of text. This was merely a demonstration. The true reset begins now. Sound of the Prometheus Solutions logo pulsing ominously, the distant, terrified screams of the city, and the eerie silence of the failed grid, broken only by the sporadic crackle of failing power lines. They had won a battle, but not the war. Project Blackout, though partially contained, had served its purpose: to sow chaos, to prove a point. And now, Silas Thorne had activated a secondary, even more terrifying phase. What new nightmare awaited a city already on its knees? Lena's ablet displaying the ominous message and logo. Alex and Lena, battered and exhausted, staring at the screen with dawning horror. The city skyline remains mostly dark, a few emergency lights twinkling like desperate stars.
The Blackout was merely a prologue. Silas Thorne's chilling message, "The true reset begins now," echoes through the silent, fear-stricken city. As panic grips millions, Alex Kaelen and Lena Petrova discover the true horror of his plan: to weaponize fear, to unravel the very fabric of society. This is their final stand. The stakes have never been higher. A city in darkness, sporadic fires, people running in fear. Close-ups of terrified faces. Alex and Lena, their faces grim, fighting through chaos. A distorted image of a city skyline shattering. Alex and Lena stared at the chilling message on the tablet, the words burning into their minds. This was merely a demonstration. The true reset begins now. Alex, his voice tight with grim understanding. The Blackout, it wasn't the end goal. It was the setup, to sow panic, to make them vulnerable. His eyes scanned the horizon, where sporadic fires now dotted the darkened skyline. Suddenly, a distorted, authoritative voice crackled over the few working police frequencies and emergency broadcast channels Lena could access. "Attention, citizens. Repeat, attention, citizens. This is a Level 5 emergency broadcast. Foreign agents have compromised critical infrastructure. Martial law is now in effect. Seek shelter immediately. Resources are limited. Do not attempt to leave your homes." The voice, though calm, was designed to terrify. It was a deepfake, meticulously crafted to sound like a trusted government official. Lena, voice horrified, her hands flying across her tablet. "My God, they're hacking the emergency broadcasts, spreading misinformation, fueling the panic. This is the true reset, collapsing society from within." Her face was pale, seeing the horrifying implications. The signal, it's originating from a mobile broadcast unit, highly encrypted, constantly moving. Alex, voice, his jaw clenched, a cold fury in his eyes. Silas, he wants to burn it all down. Where's that signal coming from, Lena? Where's his command center for this new nightmare? Lena furiously tracked the shifting signal, exploiting a momentary latency in the encryption. Got it! It's a repurposed armored transport, moving fast, heading towards the city's central media hub. He's going to amplify the signal, ensure no one misses the reset. The city was a maelstrom of fear. Without power, without information, people were reacting to the terrifying false broadcasts. Crowds surged in confusion, minor incidents escalated into brawls, and the distant wail of emergency sirens sounded less like rescue and more like an ominous harbinger. Alex, behind the wheel of another stolen vehicle, pushed it to its limits, weaving through the anarchy. His eyes were fixed on Lena's tablet, which displayed the blinking red dot of Silas's mobile command unit. He could hear the desperate tremor in Lena's voice as she navigated, but her focus remained absolute. Lena, voice urgent,
He's slowing, near the old Channel 7 building. He's setting up for maximum broadcast range. They crashed through the old Channel 7 loading dock gates, tires screeching. Inside, the cavernous, derelict space, bathed in the red glow of emergency lights, stood a heavily armored black mobile broadcast unit, its satellite dish extended. Around it, elite Prometheus operatives armed and ready. And standing atop the unit, his figure stark against the flickering emergency lights, was Silas Thorne. His face was a mask of cold triumph, illuminated by a screen displaying the false broadcast. Silas Thorne, voice amplified, chillingly calm. "Ah, Agent Kaelen, punctual as ever. You've seen my vision. You've witnessed the fragility. This is merely an acceleration." He gestured to the chaotic city outside. "In the void of information, fear is king. And I, Alex, am here to crown it."
You're a madman, Silas! This isn't a reset, it's an annihilation! Silas merely smiled, a chilling, indifferent expression. "Engage them." The Prometheus operatives moved with ruthless precision, weapons raised. Alex, using the abandoned crates and media equipment as cover, became a blur of motion. Every strike, every dodge, every countermove was fueled by a desperate need to stop the man who had destroyed his life and threatened countless others. He fought with a brutal efficiency born of despair. Lena, meanwhile, scrambled for an old control panel, trying to find a way to disrupt the mobile broadcast unit's signal, to cut off the flow of insidious lies. Her fingers flew, bypassing ancient security systems, sweat dripping from her brow. Lena, voice strained over the comms. "Alex, I need a diversion. I can't get a clean signal override. They've got redundant systems." Alex, pinned behind a stack of crates by heavy gunfire, gritted his teeth. He saw his chance. He took a deep breath, and then, with a desperate roar, he launched himself forward, throwing a discarded metal pipe with all his might. It struck a strategically placed junction box on the armored unit. Sparks exploded, and the false broadcast momentarily flickered. The operatives turned their attention to Alex, a furious fusillade of gunfire. Alex fought valiantly, taking down 2 more, but he was outnumbered, outgunned. A sharp, searing pain exploded in his side as a bullet tore through his flesh. He stumbled, falling hard against a metal pillar, gasping, his vision blurring. Silas Thorne, voice a cruel laugh. "Fool, you can't stop the inevitable, Agent. The world is changing, and you are merely a relic of what was." He raised a weapon, aiming for a final fatal shot. But Lena, seeing Alex fall, managed to hotwire the old building's emergency lights. The loading dock was suddenly bathed in a blinding, strobing white light, disorienting everyone. In that split second, she found her opening. With a desperate lunge, she activated the old building's powerful shortwave antenna, jamming Silas's mobile unit with a burst of static, cutting off the false broadcast mid-sentence. Silas roared in frustration. "Stop her!" As the operatives turned, Alex, bleeding profusely, pushed himself up. His eyes, though clouded with pain, were fixed on Silas. This was it. One last desperate charge. He threw himself forward, ignoring the pain, tackling Silas Thorne off the mobile unit with a desperate, guttural cry. They hit the concrete floor hard. Silas's weapon clattered away. Alex, fueled by a final burst of adrenaline, landed a series of brutal, desperate blows. Silas, surprised by Alex's tenacity, fought back with a cold, calculated ferocity. But Alex's raw fury overwhelmed him. He slammed Silas's head against the cold concrete. The broadcast was cut. The reset was halted. The immediate threat was neutralized. But Alex, his strength failing,
felt a profound, chilling exhaustion take over. The bullet wound burned, his body screamed. He could hear Lena's frantic shouts, the distant sirens, the confused cries of the city. He saw the cold, defeated rage in Silas's eyes. Alex had won, but at what cost? His vision swam, and the world began to fade into a terrifying, consuming darkness. He collapsed, his body heavy, his breath shallow, utterly spent. Sound of Alex's labored breathing fading. Lena's panicked screams, distant sirens growing louder. The final, chilling silence of the cut broadcast. The screen goes black. The true reset was averted, but the cost was immense. Agent Alex Kaelen had faced his greatest betrayer, secured his redemption, and saved thousands. But in his final, desperate stand, his fate remained uncertain, swallowed by the chaos and the encroaching darkness. A black screen, then a single, faint pulse of a heartbeat monitor. A blurred image of Alex lying still, his eyes closed. Lena Petrova kneeling beside him, her face stained with tears and grime. The Prometheus Solutions logo flashes, then cracks and fades.
When the dust settles and the echoes of chaos begin to fade, the slow, rhythmic beep, beep of a hospital monitor, gentle, reflective music begins. When the dust settles and the echoes of chaos begin to fade, what remains of a hero's sacrifice? Agent Alex Kaelen plunged into the heart of darkness, framed, hunted, and bleeding to save a city that didn't even know his name. Now, as the light slowly returns, we ask, what is the true price of redemption? And what future awaits a man irrevocably changed? A slow pan over a recovering city, emergency services active, a hospital room, Alex Kaelen, pale, bandaged, but breathing. Lena Petrova by his side. The world returned to Alex Kaelen in fragments. The sterile scent of antiseptic, the persistent hum of machines, and Lena's hand, warm and reassuring, clasping his own. Days had passed since the bullet tore through his side, since his body finally gave out after the brutal confrontation with Silas Thorne. He was alive, barely. Alex, voice weak, raspy. Lena, the city? Silas? Lena squeezed his hand, her face etched with exhaustion, but her eyes bright with a fierce relief. Her own arm was bandaged from a graze during the final chaotic moments. You did it, Alex. We did it. Her voice was thick with emotion. The core grid stabilized. Not a full recovery, but enough to prevent total collapse. Emergency services restored within hours. The city's picking itself up. She paused, taking a shaky breath. Silas Thorne was apprehended, along with Deputy Director Vance, who folded like a cheap suit once he realized his life was over. The data I retrieved from Prometheus's servers, combined with Vance's testimony, and even Art Jenkins's earlier intel, it all came out. Alex managed a weak, almost imperceptible nod. The memory of the fight, the cold triumph in Silas's eyes, still haunted him. The news cycles were ablaze. The story of Project Blackout and the True Reset shook the nation. Director Robert Thorne, haggard and visibly aged, stood before a press conference, his voice choked with regret. Robert Thorne, voice on TV, his face grim, eyes shadowed. I stand before you today, a man deeply ashamed. I was a pawn. My brother, Silas Thorne, a man I believed to be long dead to me, manipulated me. He leveraged my trust, my patriotism, to frame one of our finest agents, Alex Kaelen, and to execute a horrifying plot against our own citizens. His voice cracked. Agent Kaelen, he is a hero.
He stopped a catastrophe. We owe him our lives.
Alex watched the news report on a small hospital TV, a flicker of something unreadable in his eyes. Exoneration, the public apologies, the media frenzy turning him from villain to savior. But it felt distant, hollow. Lena, sitting beside him, touched his arm gently. "Your name is cleared, Alex. More than cleared. You're a legend." Alex, voice soft, distant. A legend in a hospital bed. They wanted a narrative. I gave it to them. He looked at her, his eyes carrying a profound weariness. "Can I ever go back, Lena? Can I ever put on that badge again and truly believe in the system after this?" Lena looked out the window at the slowly recovering city. "Maybe not, Alex. Maybe that's the point. You fought for justice when the system failed. Maybe your purpose isn't inside the lines anymore." She turned back to him, her expression serious. "Art Jenkins, by the way. He's fine. They released him after the truth came out. Said you owe him a new coffee mug." A small, rare smile touched her lips. Months later, the city had healed, scars remaining, but life vibrant once more. Alex Kaelen, thinner but with a quiet strength in his gaze, sat on a park bench. He wore civilian clothes, unremarkable, blending into the crowd. His side still twinged occasionally, a constant reminder of the ordeal. He hadn't rejoined the FBI. He couldn't. Not yet. Maybe never. Lena approached, carrying 2 coffees. She handed one to him, her eyes softening as she saw the peace on his face. She had returned to the FBI, promoted, respected, but she was different too. Harder, wiser. Lena, voice quiet. Hearing about a new group, Shadows, operating outside the usual channels, hitting Prometheus remnants, ensuring no one tries this again. She took a sip of her coffee, her eyes meeting his. They say their methods are unorthodox, but effective. Alex looked out at the city, the setting sun painting the sky in hues of red and gold. He thought of Art Jenkins, Lena, the countless lives he'd saved, and the insidious evil he'd uncovered. The battle was over, but the war for truth never truly ended. There would always be shadows, and someone had to be there to fight them, even if it meant being a shadow himself. Alex, voice a faint, knowing smile playing on his lips. Do they now? He took a sip of his coffee, its warmth a stark contrast to the cold he had lived in for so long. He was a rogue agent no more. He was something new. A protector from the unseen. Sound of the reflective music swelling, then fading as Alex looks out at the city, his face serene but determined. The name Alex Kaelen may fade from the headlines, but his legacy lives on in the city he saved. His journey from framed traitor to silent guardian reminds us that heroism isn't always about accolades, but about unwavering resolve in the face of insurmountable odds. He found redemption not in vindication, but in the quiet, enduring fight for what is right. Thank you for joining us on this incredible journey through Rogue Agent Redemption. If you were captivated by Alex's story, please hit that like button, leave your final thoughts on the series in the comments below, and share this entire 10-episode saga with everyone you know. Your support helps us bring more thrilling narratives to life on the 5th act. And if you're hungry for more, make sure you're subscribed and have activated those notifications, because while Alex Kaelen's story finds its close, the fight for truth in the shadows, well, that story is far from over. We'll see you in our next series.